Before we head back to court, I want to bring in our guest for this hour, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor David Bruno. David, great to see you as always, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me on the program tonight. And I want to begin because we're getting ready to see the cross-examination of this witness. Let's talk a little bit about what to expect from the defense, but I want to hone in on that last little bit of testimony there, which I thought was very important for the prosecution. And it was a little bit weird, as I mentioned, because it's important in that if she's looking at him and responding to him by shrugging her shoulders and saying, "So," that's very different than earlier in his testimony. He said he turned to her and shrugged her shoulders. I think those two things are very, very, very different things.
Yeah, you also heard the objection from the defense attorney at the time of that, because the question was leading in a sense that, did she understand you? And that is at the heart of what we're doing here in the affirmative defense of insanity, whether or not she understood the difference between right and wrong. And that's what's at issue, even though she has a disease. And the prosecutor is going to probably land on this, that, look, she may have mental health issues, and it may be a disease or a defect. However, it must be under the disease and defect at the time of the action, not understanding the difference between right and wrong. So that's where the defense comes in. The defense is going to try to explore any little gold nuggets in the cross-examinations to show unreasonable or irrational thoughts or actions. But I'll tell you what, if you're a defense attorney, you want to speed through this sort of guilt phase or the prosecutor's affirmative obligation to prove this murder, because the emotional testimony from this last witness, the emotional testimony from the mother, we all know it's going to come down to the experts at the end. But the jury's hearing all of this, and it's very, very strong for the prosecution to prove the case of murder.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because they have not only that legal burden, but also as a practical matter, all of the emotion involved in the case. They got to overcome that as well. All right, David, stand by. I want to go back now.